Welcome back to the table. Let's start at the top of the ballot as we're talking about some of these other races. Only two contested races for Congress. Democratic Senator Ben Ray Lujan handily beat Democratic Socialist Matt Dotson. He'll face a Republican write-in candidate who got enough votes to appear on the ballot. That's Larry Marker in November. On the Republican side, for Congressional District 2, that's the Southern District, Greg Cunningham bested Jose Orozco. He actually had dropped out of the race in April, so that's not all that surprising. But let's look at the general election. Cunningham will face two-term Democratic Representative Gabe Vasquez. This is kind of the one seat in recent memory. You were talking about how consistently Democrats have won that it was held by a Republican, Yvette Herrell, 2021 to 2023. So what are Cunningham's chances? And he also boasts the endorsement from President Trump.
Well, in a pre-redistricting, that endorsement might go very far, but the way that has been gerrymandered, I don't think it will matter. I don't think it'll help. Trump does not win in New Mexico pre-gerrymandered. New Mexico is not a Trump state. And the way CD2 has been tortured into this new Hydra thing,
and
it will definitely not help him.
Redraw it to include Albuquerque, South Valley, and some of the west
right, and split Roswell into three different districts. It's just ridiculous.
And it was found to be constitutional. You mentioned
Vaguely.
gerrymandering, but
Sure.
It was redistricted.
It was upheld, yes.
It was upheld in the
Yeah.
courts. But Gabe Vasquez has won both times since it was redrawn.
Right.
And you think that'll
But
be challenging for Cunningham.
I'm just very, I served on the redistricting, an independent redistricting commission, and I do not support that map, but it's the map. That said, Trump is not going to play well in CD2, and I think Cunningham would be smarter to run on his record, to run on the issues, and hit the doors, knock on doors and tell his story and share his story as a viable alternative. Unfortunately, congressional Republicans are not showing well right now, and I think that may not help him. This has not been a strong Congress. Things have not gotten done, and I think voters are going to want to see a change.
Right. What about the lieutenant governor contest? That was a contested seat in both primaries. Turned out Secretary of State Maggie Toulouse Oliver bested Senator Harold Pope Jr. with 80% of the vote, so a total blowout. He was arguably the more progressive candidate compared to Toulouse Oliver, so differing from the governor's race on the Democratic side in that way. What do you make of that, Dee Dee?
Well, I think Maggie Toulouse Oliver had so much name recognition from Secretary of State and County Clerk Bernalillo County that there was no way anyone was going to topple her. I was disappointed that Stephanie Garcia Richard had to drop out of that race. I thought that would have been a much more interesting race, and probably Maggie would not have run. But they're both progressives. Pope as well as Maggie. What
impact do you think Toulouse Oliver will have on the Holland ticket?
Well, it's hard to say. It's hard to say what impact a lieutenant governor has on any governor. And I think those lieutenant governors who realize that the position is just a formality fight to have a say
even
in
somebody
cabinets.
with the name recognition that Toulouse Oliver has that you're mentioning, someone with that much clout in New Mexico Democratic politics, do you think that'll mean that maybe she has a more sizable role than usual for a lieutenant governor?
Yes, I think so, but the thing is, Diane Dennis was a strong lieutenant governor with Richardson, but she had to fight for her spot at the table, and she had to put forward policies like a children's cabinet post and a new department for early childhood. She did that. Maggie will have to carve out some of those issues for herself. She's already carved out voting rights and has made a huge contribution to the state there. I think that she will need to also go in other directions.
Let's look at the lieutenant governor race on the Republican side. David Gallegos won over Blair Dunn and Manny Lardizábal. What does Senator Gallegos bring to the whole ticket?
Well, he certainly brings legislative experience, and the lieutenant governor does preside over the state senate. I always liked Aubrey Dunn, but he, had aligned himself with Rodriguez, Duke Rodriguez, so he was only going to run if Rodriguez ran, and that seemed odd. I think Gallegos will be a fine candidate. I don't know that there's a lot of influence that you have on a governor's race. You kind of run your own ads, but to that point, it's just being aspirational to run for governor in 4 or 8 years.
Well, speaking of Toulouse Oliver, she's termed out, so her Secretary of State's office was an open seat. That was contested on the Democratic side between Doña Ana County Clerk Amanda Lopez Askin, who pulled it out, over Santa Fe County Clerk Catherine Clark. Why did Lopez Askin resonate more with some of the establishment Democrats? She got the endorsement of Toulouse Oliver as well as Governor Lujan Grisham.
Mm-hmm. And she got a lot of money, too, at the end there. From special interests, from the trial lawyers, from legislators.
What do you think that is?
I think that Catherine Clark was independent. She was seen to be independent and could not be controlled by kind of the establishment Democrats, and that was a minus for her in that race. So I'm sorry that she lost, because I thought both candidates were very well qualified. Both are county clerks. Both ran good shops in their respective counties. But Catherine was not able to pull it out because she had some enemies within the Democratic Party.
Mm-hmm. And what do we expect in November as she faces Ramona Goolsbee, who ran unopposed on the Republican side?
Well, I would echo Didi's comments about Clark, and independence is certainly something you want in a Secretary of State, not unlike an Attorney General. Goolsbee, I think, certainly brings good qualifications to the race. I think, again, it will be a challenge. I can't emphasize enough the dysfunction at RPNM right now. All I can say is we may again have a chairman, since, of course, the drama over the chairman who disqualified herself over violating RPNM's own bylaws by being a contested candidate in a primary is again perhaps qualified, since she lost her own contested primary. So Amy Barela may again be chairwoman or qualified. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, what time is it?
Yeah. Well, I think though, if Mandy Askin asks, one of the key questions she needs to ask Goolsbee is, are you an election denier? Do you believe that Biden won the 2020 election? And I would be very interested to see what she says, because her reputation is as an election denier.
That is a valid concern.
Yeah.
I want to move us on to the Commissioner of Public Lands race. This was one that a lot of people were watching on the Democratic side. Why was that, briefly? And what do you all see for coming up in November?
Well, the Commissioner of Public Lands is a underrated office that has a tremendous amount of power over state lands in New Mexico, of which there are many. And most candidates for land commissioners spend the first 15 minutes of any speech explaining what the office is and why it's important. So it is important, and it's particularly important now. Matthew McQueen faced
Juan Sanchez
Juan
III
Sanchez.
and Jonas Moya. Juan Sanchez pulled it out.
Yes, there were 3 candidates there. Juan Sanchez pulled it off quite handily.
Yes.
A great deal of money flowed into his campaign in the last month from out of state. One super PAC, or one PAC, was actually got the majority of money from Chevron and Devon energy companies. Another is a super PAC out of Virginia that did not disclose its donors or expenditures as required by state law. And I actually filed a ethics complaint against that particular PAC.
And what came of that?
Nothing. It's not going to be heard until 2 weeks from now.
Okay.
So basically nothing has come of it.
Okay.
But I just wanted to mention that.
Of course. Thanks for doing that. And Sanchez will face Republican Michael Perry, who ran unopposed. Any thoughts about November?
Perry has great experience. He's been a game warden. He's been an assistant commissioner at the land office. So he knows this world.
Let me ask you this: what influence does it have on Perry's chances that we have 2 of the most recently successful Republicans in New Mexico now serving in Trump's Interior Department? We've got BLM Director Steve Pierce. Yvette Harrell is also serving as an assistant secretary in the USDA. Does that influence this race and a Republican's chances in New Mexico in this landscape?
I don't know if just because the land commissioner, the race itself is kind of obscure, and I don't know if that is going to get into it now. Certainly, he may get money for it, and he may get some visibility for it, and so I think, the relative lack of knowledge, because this is a newcomer, his Democratic opponent. I think if it were Perry versus McQueen, it would be a much tougher race. I think actually Perry has a shot at this one, but I don't know that Harrell and Pierce have as much of an impact, except I think RPNM will put money behind this one because it's such an important office to the oil and gas industry.
You think? Go ahead.
And the Democrats will fight it very hard too, because they see a threat to public lands in general coming from Washington, and so they will support Juan Sanchez. He's a staffer from Heinrich, and
who endorsed him?
Yeah, who endorsed him, and who will help him, I think, in terms of fundraising again, and that's going to be a race to watch, I think.
All right. Well, we'll be watching. Thank you all so much.